He said he had changed, swore he was a new man. But old habits die hard. One night, he fell asleep with his laptop open. My curiosity got the best of me, and what I found made my stomach drop. Dating profiles, fake names, plans for weekend getaways. With different women. I waited until breakfast and casually asked, "So, do you like the name James?" He froze mid-sip. I held up his laptop and whispered, because apparently, that's who you are to half the city. His face went white, and I knew this time, I was finally done. I never imagined I'd be sharing my story here, but I need to get this off my chest. Maybe someone can learn from my experience. I'm a 34-year-old woman, and my husband, Daniel, is 36. We've been together for 10 years, married for 6. We live in Seattle, Washington. I work as a graphic designer, and Daniel is a software engineer. Our relationship started like a dream. We met at a mutual friend's party in Capitol Hill. Daniel was charming, funny, and attentive. We clicked instantly. After dating for 4 years, he proposed during a weekend getaway to the San Juan Islands. I was over the moon and said yes without hesitation. The first few years of marriage were blissful. We traveled, adopted a dog, and even started discussing having children. But about 2 years ago, things began to change. Daniel started working late more often, claiming that his projects demanded extra hours. At first, I believed him. After all, the tech industry is known for its demanding schedules. However, his behavior at home became increasingly distant. He was always on his phone or laptop, even during our designated us time. Conversations became superficial, and our intimacy dwindled. I chalked it up to work stress and tried to be supportive. One evening, while Daniel was in the shower, his laptop chimed with a notification. Curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced at the screen. An email preview showed a booking confirmation for a hotel in Portland for the upcoming weekend. We hadn't planned any trips, so this puzzled me. I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I decided to dig a little deeper. Over the next few days, I noticed more red flags. He received texts late at night and would step out of the room to respond. He became overly protective of his devices, setting up new passwords. He started paying more attention to his appearance, hitting the gym more frequently and buying new clothes. The breaking point came when he left his laptop open while he was asleep. I know invading someone's privacy is wrong, but my gut was screaming that something was off. I opened his laptop and found multiple dating profiles under the name James. There were messages between him and various women, discussing plans for dinners, weekend getaways, and more. Some conversations were explicit, leaving no doubt about his intentions. My heart shattered. The man I loved, the one I trusted implicitly, was leading a double life. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and deep sadness. The next morning, I decided to confront him. I made breakfast as usual, trying to keep my composure. As we sat down to eat, I casually asked, "So, do you like the name James?" He froze mid-sip of his coffee. His eyes widened and color drained from his face. "What are you talking about?" he stammered. I held up his laptop, displaying one of the dating profiles. "Because apparently, that's who you are to half the city," I said, my voice trembling. He was speechless. After a moment, he muttered, "I can explain." "Please do," I replied, tears streaming down my face. He admitted to creating the profiles, but insisted that it was just harmless flirting, and that he never met any of the women in person. I found that hard to believe, given the explicit nature of some messages and the hotel booking. I packed a bag and left to stay with a friend. Over the next few days, I grappled with a whirlwind of emotions. Friends and family offered support, each with their own opinions on what I should do next. Daniel reached out multiple times, apologizing and begging for another chance. He claimed he was willing to go to therapy and do whatever it took to rebuild our relationship. I was torn. Part of me wanted to believe he could change, that we could salvage what we had. But another part couldn't shake the betrayal and the lies. I didn't go back home. Daniel kept texting, calling. He sent long emails saying things like, "I made a mistake," and "You're the love of my life." At one point, he left flowers and a handwritten note at my friend's door. He wrote that he couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think. It felt surreal. This was the same man who had been messaging 3 different women in one night, booking hotel rooms under the name James. Now he was playing the role of the devastated husband. I ignored him for a week. I needed time. My friend Olivia let me stay with her in her apartment in Queen Anne. I spent most nights staring at the ceiling, replaying everything over and over. But I wasn't ready for what came next. One evening, Olivia and I went to a bar near her place. I needed to get out, get some air, distract myself. The bartender handed me a drink, and as I turned around, I saw Daniel, sitting at the far end of the bar, with a woman. She was younger, dressed in a sleek black dress. She leaned in close, whispering something in his ear. He laughed. Not just any laugh, his laugh. The one he used when he was trying to be charming. The one I used to love. I stood frozen. My blood ran cold. Olivia saw my face and followed my stare. Is that? She started. Yeah, I said, before turning and walking straight out. Outside, I could barely breathe. He had told me he was fighting for us, trying to fix it, going to therapy. Yet here he was, already out with someone else, less than 10 days after I left. I didn't confront him that night. I didn't trust myself not to scream. But the next morning, I sent him a message. Hope your date went well. Black dress suits her. Was it her turn last night, or did you just give up pretending? No reply. For 2 days. Then came the longest text I've ever received. He admitted he wasn't alone. He said it was a friend, but then contradicted himself later and said they'd gone on a few dates. Claimed he was coping badly. Claimed he felt abandoned when I left. Abandoned? He called what I did abandonment. I didn't respond. But I did start thinking. And digging. And what I found next changed everything. A woman named Kayla messaged me on Instagram. She said she saw my post about betrayal. I had made a vague, cryptic post, nothing specific, and she said something about it felt familiar. She asked if I knew someone named James. I stared at my screen. We messaged back and forth. Turned out, she had been dating James, aka Daniel, for nearly 4 months. She met him on Hinge. He said he was a consultant. Said he lived in Bellevue, traveled a lot. Used a different last name. Kayla had pictures, receipts, screenshots of their conversations. She'd even met him at a hotel in Portland. The same weekend I had seen that email on his laptop. My hands were shaking. I asked her, do you still have his number? She sent it. Same. Exact. Number. I felt like vomiting. But it didn't stop there. Over the next week, 2 more women reached out to me. Somehow word had spread. One had been seeing him on and off for nearly a year. Another said she caught vibes from him being shady and dumped him after 2 dates, but still wanted to warn me. All of them had known him as James. He had created entire lives with these women. Different stories. Different lies. Different versions of himself. All while coming home to me, sleeping next to me, sharing a bank account. And now I realized he wasn't just a cheater. He was a compulsive liar. I finally confronted him. I didn't tell him I knew everything. I wanted to see what he would say. I called him and said, if there's anything else I should know, now's the time. He hesitated. Then said, no, I've told you everything. I just want to make things right. I laughed. I laughed so hard I started crying again. You're still lying, I whispered. You lied to me. To Kayla. To Lindsay. To Stephanie. Want me to keep going? Dead silence. Then, please, Emma. Let me explain. I hung up. But I wasn't done. I took screenshots. Printed every message. Collected emails, dates, photos, receipts. I was documenting everything. Not because I wanted revenge. A few days after that call, I blocked Daniel on everything. I thought that was it. Thought it was over. But I was wrong. So wrong. 2 weeks passed. I was trying to piece myself back together. I moved some of my things into a short-term rental in Ballard. I hadn't decided what to do with the house. Too many memories. Too many lies soaked into the walls. Then one afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Is this Emma?" a voice asked. Female. Calm. Slight accent I couldn't place. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is Marisol. I don't mean to intrude. I found your number from a forum. I think we need to talk. It's about James." My heart dropped. "Go on," I said quietly. She told me she was Daniel's ex. Not just an ex. His fiancé. From before me. She said they were together in Chicago for 2 years. Engaged for 1. She left him after she caught him lying and flirting with other women online. That was 6 months before I met him at that Capitol Hill party. She said he used to go by Jamie then. Same pattern. Different city. Different women. She found me because a friend of hers still followed one of his old burner accounts, and somehow a post had popped up. He'd posted a picture of himself recently. Same face, same eyes. But now, calling himself James in Seattle. She recognized him instantly and started digging. That's how she found me. We spoke for over an hour. Every single thing she told me mirrored what I had lived through. The fake names. The lies. The charm. The silence when confronted. The ghosting. The gaslighting. I felt sick again. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time. Then I called Kayla, one of the women who had messaged me earlier. I told her everything Marisol said. Her reply? "Emma, I didn't want to overwhelm you, but I think you should know something else. I found a hidden folder on my phone." "What kind of folder?" She hesitated. "Photos. Screenshots. Voice notes. From him." He had sent her pictures of me. Of us. Our wedding photo. A selfie from our trip to Lake Crescent. A picture of me asleep on the couch, taken from behind. My blood turned cold. "Why would he send you those?" "He said you were his sister." I couldn't even speak. "He said you were his sister who was visiting from out of town and staying with him temporarily. He said you were going through a divorce and needed support. That's why you were in the background sometimes. That's why he couldn't always talk at night. He used me as cover. He turned our marriage into a prop." That was the moment I stopped crying. It was the moment something in me flipped. This wasn't just cheating. This was psychological warfare. This man wasn't trying to fix things. He wasn't sorry. He was dangerous. I started researching narcissistic personality disorder. Double lives. Love bombing. Emotional manipulation. All of it matched. I wasn't just healing from heartbreak, I was untangling from a man who built a web of lies and used people like stepping stones. But then came the twist I never expected. Another message. This time from a guy. His name was Travis. He said, "I hope this doesn't freak you out, but I think I've been seeing the same James you're talking about. And I'm a guy." That's when I sat down and just stared at my phone. Daniel, James, Jamie, was also on Grindr. Travis showed me the profile. The pictures were real. The name was Jay. The bio said he was curious, lived in Redmond, worked in tech. Travis said they'd hooked up twice. Thought it was just casual, but something felt off. When he saw one of the Reddit posts someone shared on Twitter about James the serial dater, he thought the guy looked way too familiar. I had no words. The man I thought I married was living 4 or 5 lives. Different names. Different genders. Different stories. And somehow keeping all of it straight. That wasn't just a cheater. That wasn't just a liar. That was someone with no identity. Or too many. And the worst part? I still didn't know how many more people were out there. Every day felt like another truth bomb. Another email. Another message from someone saying, "Hey, I think I know your husband." It was like trying to pull your soul out of quicksand. And still, this isn't over. It all led up to one final moment I'll never forget. After Travis messaged me, I knew I had to do something. Not out of revenge, out of survival. I couldn't live in this twisted cycle any longer, always waiting for the next reveal, the next stranger who knew more about my husband than I did. So I planned something. Daniel didn't know that I had been collecting everything: screenshots, messages, voice notes, the photos, the fake profiles. I reached out to the women and even Travis. I asked if they'd be willing to meet, just once. To talk face to face. To see the truth for themselves. 4 of them agreed. We picked a quiet spot. A cafe downtown with a private event space in the back. I reserved it under a fake name. Kayla, Marisol, she flew in, Travis and another woman named Elise came. We had coffee. We compared stories. We cried. We laughed bitterly. We realized just how deep the rabbit hole went. Then I sent him a message. We need to talk. Please come meet me. Alone. 6 p.m., 4th and Pine. Back room. He replied in under a minute. Of course. I've been waiting for this. He showed up early. Same smile he always used when he wanted to disarm me. Clean shave, ironed shirt. Like he cared. Like he was ready to fix things. I stood across from him, arms crossed. No small talk. Then I opened the door to the back room. He stepped inside and froze. He looked from face to face. Mouth slightly open. Pale. Sweating. Kayla. Marisol. Elise. Travis. And me. I don't understand, he stammered. Elise stepped forward. You don't remember me? Last month. You said your sister was visiting from out of town. Travis, you called yourself Jay. Marisol, you told me you'd changed. Kayla, you said I was the only one. He tried to speak. He raised his hand, then lowered it. I stepped forward. My voice was calm, cold. Just answer one thing. Why? He looked at me. Finally, he spoke. Quiet. Broken. I don't know, he said. I needed it. All of it. I liked how it felt. Being someone else. Being wanted. I couldn't stop. Every time I tried, I panicked. I told myself I wasn't hurting anyone if I kept it separate. But it all got so messy. You didn't just cheat, I said, choking on the words. You built people. Invented lives. Lied with ease. He sat down. Covered his face with his hands. Started sobbing. But no one moved. No one comforted him. Not anymore. Kayla shook her head and walked out. Elise followed. Travis gave me a small nod, then left too. Only Marisol and I remained. She looked at me, then at him. You need help. Real help. But don't ever involve me again. Then she left too. He looked at me, eyes red, nose running. Emma, I swear, if I could take it all back, you can't, I said. I lost myself somewhere, he whispered. No, I replied. You chose yourself. Over and over again. Then I walked out. Left him sitting there in the silence he built. The days after were hollow. I filed for divorce. Fast. Clean. He didn't fight it. Maybe he couldn't. Or maybe, finally, he knew he had no ground left to stand on. The gossip eventually spread among our mutuals. Some judged. Some pitied. Some said they always had a weird feeling about him. Typical. Olivia was a rock through it all. She helped me move the rest of my things, cleared out the house. We listed it for sale. Sometimes at night, I still wonder who else he was. How many names, how many women or men he pulled into his chaos. I probably will never know the full list. But I do know this. I am not responsible for fixing a man who built his life on lies. I learned how much I had ignored, brushed aside, rationalized. I thought loyalty meant staying even when it hurt. But now I understand, loyalty means protecting yourself, too. Daniel didn't just cheat. He shattered something deep in me. Trust. Safety. My own sense of judgment. But he didn't destroy me. I am still here. I am scarred, but I'm standing. I don't know what comes next. Healing isn't a straight line. Some mornings I feel strong. Others, I cry in the shower. That's okay. That's real. I may not have a happy ending yet, but I do have clarity. And for now, that's enough.